today's panel discussion. It is very exciting to have people from all around the world. We have a very, very tight schedule. So let me just very quickly walk you through our hour together. First, I will be introducing all of our 5 panelists. When I introduce them, they are not going to start speaking yet. I will just introduce them so you know who they are. And then each of them will speak for 2 to 4 minutes. They have very, very strict briefing to stay within their time. But if they do exceed, then our timer, Graham, will start clapping them down if they get to 5 minutes. And hopefully we will not have to clap down everyone. After they have had their 2 to 4 minutes, I will ask some questions that have come from our participants. They have put the questions in through Google form. And then once we are done with that, we will have questions from our participants live right now. Aaron will be looking at the chat. So if you have a question, put it into the chat box, make it as brief as possible so that we will have more time for questions. And of course, the panelists also know that they will be responding as briefly as possible. So let's get the show on the road. Let me introduce, we have our 5 panelists. George Marshall is from District 57. He is the Chief Pathways Guide, and District 57 was the first to be piloted. He has completed 2 paths already and is currently working on his 3rd. He is expecting to earn a 4th DTM in Pathways, meaning he's had 3 DTMs in the Legacy program. He is currently a member of 3 clubs, including his home club of 14 years and Online Presenters Club. Our second panelist is Lauralee Norris. Lauralee is a Pathways Guide for District 7 and the Vice President of Public Relations for Yakina Toastmasters. She has been a member of Toastmasters for only 2 years, but has already received the Advanced Communicator Bronze and Advanced Leadership Bronze. Outside of Toastmasters, Lauralee goes to school at Oregon Coast Community College as well as Oregon State University. She also works for Financial Freedom, an investment company. Our third panelist, probably the best known, is Pathways Ambassador Julie Curtis. She has completed 2 paths and is soon to finish her 3rd. She's the creator of storytelling workshops and the co-creator of Witty Storytellers Online. She has a blog, which is a very popular blog, Pathways Experience, now over 22,000 hits. She is a member of 7 Toastmasters clubs, 1 in London, 3 online, and 3 Pathways remote, and various other credentials to her name. Our 4th panelist is Sudha, who is from District 71 in the UK and Ireland. She joined Toastmasters in the year 2015. She started her Pathways experience in October this year. She's already nearing completion of her 1st path, Dynamic Leadership. She is also working towards DTM within the current curriculum. And she's a member of multiple clubs, online as well as on-site. Our 5th, but definitely not the last panelist, or is the least, and our last but definitely not the least panelist is Brian Dodd. He has been presenting Pathways presentations since it was the revised education program and has given 9 before the pilot actually started rolling out. He has been a remote member of a Pathways Club since April and has finished Visionary Communication and has started his 2nd path, Dynamic Leadership. So those are our 5 panelists. Now, I had not intended to introduce myself, but I was requested by several who said their trios or their district leaders need to know who is this person organizing a panel. So, okay, and all right. My name is Michelle Alba-Lim. I am a past district director. I have 3 DTMs in the Legacy program and working on my 4th. Yes, I am a Pathways ambassador and a Pathways guide. That's a specific answer to a specific question that was posed to me. So, having done with all of those introductions, let us now bring up our first panelist, George Marshall. Let's all give him a big hand.
Hello, thank you. So District 57 was the first district to go on to Pathways. So we are now coming on 10 months worth of experience. And in that time, I certainly developed some insights about the way the program works. I have answered, it seems, what, thousands of questions about Pathways. And I'm going to share some of those with you. So what I've been asked to do is to give you an overview of Pathways. Headquarters would be sad to know that we can do this in 4 minutes. So Pathways overview. First of all, let's just remind ourselves of the traditional program. If one were going toward a DTM, then you would be working the communication track and the leadership track. The communication track, you start with the CC, 10 speeches. Advanced Communicator Bronze, 2 advanced speeches manuals at 5 speeches each. Silver, 2 more paths, 2 more manuals. Gold, yet 2 more, and a few other things. The leadership track, which can be running completely in parallel, is the competent leader. Club officer isn't a manual, required several requirements, and of course, advanced leader silver that has a number of requirements to do. Now, that's what we've been working with for these many years. And suddenly we have Pathways. What were the issues behind Pathways, or what led to it? The goals that headquarters told us they had were, 1, to modernize the program. I'm not sure if all of you are aware of it, but our manuals all date from the 70s. Let me ask you this. Do you know of any school at any level in our education system that is still using materials from 40 years ago? I don't think so. Another goal was to provide online access. Many of our new members really want online access. They refocused on skills needed today. That meant there were some new materials coming on. More flexibility. And the goal is to improve retention with sooner and more frequent recognition, all the time retaining the core Toastmaster values. So the Toastmasters Pathways Chart DTM, this is my own version, headquarters hasn't published one, has 2 paths, requires club sponsors, speechcraft, youth leadership, mentor or coach, club officer, 12 months now, district officer, and something called the DTM project, which is kind of like an HPL, but a little lighter weight. And you would earn the DTM in that case. What about those paths? There's 5 levels in every path. They all have the same identical structure. A total of 14 projects in every path. 10 of those projects are required and 4 are electives. The first 3 levels are primarily communication, basically speeches. The next 2 are communications and leadership, and some of these are quite new and substantial efforts are required. There are 10 paths available. There's no way we have time to review them all, but again, it's a combination of public speaking, leadership, and other focuses, and it's just a matter of what the balance is and the biases between these as to which one. Which ones have I done? I've completed presentation mastery, visionary communication, and I'm currently in the middle of innovative planning. So what projects are actually in each path? You can't get that directly when you sign up for a path, but just as a reminder, if you go to the District 57 website, we have a Pathways Path and Project catalog where you can see a summary of every project in every path. Last thing I want to cover is the rollout schedule. We started with District 57 back in February, then District 27 in March 17th, and the third pilot was District 51. Then they rolled a normal rollout with Region 14, Region 2, Region 6 and 7, Region 10 and 12 are coming soon in a week or so. Region 5, 3 and 5 will be along in February the 18th, in February of 18. Regions 1 and 11 will be coming along in March. 4 and 13 will come along in April, and the last one will be 8, 9, and all the undistricted clubs. That is my overview of presentation. Back to our moderator.
Thank you so much. Excellent. And we didn't get to the applause. Thank you. We still are going to applaud you, but you didn't get clapped down. That is awesome. Thank you. And let us now move to our second panelist. Let's welcome Lauralee.
So I was asked to look at the tools as well as my experience because I am a pathways guide for my district. And I believe that we needed a lot more information given to our clubs that we were in charge of because there wasn't much coming out of Toastmasters International. So one of the things that I did was on my blog, I used it as this information hub. And the first thing that I did on that is I made recordings of my presentations. So I had 8 different clubs that I was in charge of, and I made a recording of my presentation and posted it on the blog. I also record all of my virtual support sessions so that my clubs can go back and watch them at a slower pace than what they originally are hearing it as. And then I also have other resources that I've put on my blogs that include everything from step-by-step guides to how to get places, and I also have frequently asked questions that I post on there so people can just scroll through and find their questions if I've already answered it. And that blog is ybtoastmasters.blogspot.com. The last thing that I've done is focused on social media. I have my club's Yaquina Toastmasters Facebook page that I post a lot of videos as well as my blog posts and other information pieces on Pathways. And then I also do Google Plus, and I spread my information that way. I have 8 different clubs that I do on the Oregon coast, and there are some long-time members that were really excited about Toastmasters' new education program, and some that were really not excited. So I had a very large variety of reactions to my presentation. And some of them really wanted this to help revitalize their club, and so I've been working with those people specifically on how they can give the information about Pathways so people can come to their club and learn about online speaking as well as in-person speaking. And one thing that I have really learned from this, I had never done an hour-long presentation before, so it was really nice for me to be able to get to do such a big presentation. And most of my clubs did not have a lot of questions for me at first, simply because there was a lot of information I was throwing at them. So that's another reason that I like my recordings. And the other thing that I really learned is I got to see a variety of different people and present in front of a variety of people and ages, which really helped me to be able to field a lot of different questions about Pathways and Toastmasters themselves if people had invited people in. So that is my experience with Pathways and being Pathways guide.
That's just applauding you, not applauding you off. Have we lost Michelle?
I don't see her.
I don't see her either. All right, well, I'm not sure where Michelle has gone, but while we're getting her back, and since she's the host, this could make life really interesting. Who was our third presenter?
Julie.
I didn't.
Julie.
Julie. All right, Julie, can I ask if you would like to...
But I lost you. I had you on my screen. Yeah, you are now there.
I'm here again. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, our third presenter today, our third panelist is the doyenne, Julie Curtis.
My
Please welcome.
presentation today is titled Up Close and Personal, which was the title that Carol gave me when I presented to Australian guides, and I love it. I am a Pathway ambassador and have been from the get-go 2.5 years ago, and waited, and at some time I had enough. Because Pathway arrived, but not to me. So I went to Pathway instead of waiting. And end March, I joined the club, which was Great Communicators in District 27. There is a noise coming from somewhere. And so Aaron, could you close, please? Yes, thank you. And I had a problem because I was there. I gave my icebreaker. I finished and fall in love really with Pathway at the second project because I understood really better how to give feedback and the importance of feedback than I ever had before. And even did a research about transition and Pathway, and all my work comes from there on. And then I couldn't close anything. Happily, we are Toastmasters, and Matthew Kleinowski came to my rescue. From Toronto, he came to my computer and showed me on screen how to close, how to answer, and what to do. And I learned. And from then on, I became an expert because I could help others to do the same. So my advice to every one of you, become an expert by falling into problems, and then you will be able to help others. Now, if it is still there, I would like to try to share my screen just a little bit, so it didn't expire yet. It asked me to log in again, so I log in again. That is my base camp. I hope you can see each of you my base camp. And as you see, I am a member of Yakina Toastmaster, and Lauralee just presented. I fall in love with her club also because they have such a good humor. Now, everyone who begins looks at this screen, he begins to think what I have to click, because my education transcript, it doesn't speak, doesn't work. And someone just closed my screen. I don't know why, but okay, doesn't matter. We are many of us. I cannot show my screen, I can tell you. I fall in love deeper and deeper, and even if we have some problems because the usability is not the best.
You can share screen now, Julie.
I don't know what happened though.
Someone clicked and closed my screen.
Yep, you can have it again now.
If you give me more time, it is okay. If not, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
60
so
seconds.
My education transcript doesn't speak to anyone. And that's not only to me, it was for others too. And another problem was because I wanted to check compatibility. And you see now you can see under it, but why should we go under it and click? I never understood. And there are a lot of small things like this, which I don't understand, but at least Toastmaster International did really change a lot of them. And so with time, he will change others. When I came to level 3, I fall again in love with all those yummy projects you can choose from. And I selected, you see, I have done here connected to your audience and inspire your audience. And then I found new friends because of my blog and because I link to others and because being one step only ahead, I become expert.
Thank you,
And
Julie.
I've done a lot of panels, and thank you very much to choosing me like panelist now.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you,
Thank
Julie.
you
And
very much. Thank you. And in case you noticed, I am now.
you're back again.
Yes, but I am using my iPhone. Believe it or not, our internet died in the United States of A. So it's not just third world countries. Thank you so much, Julie. And let us move on now to our fourth panelist. Let's welcome Sudha.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for attending this panel. I am going to share, this is going to be the reflection of my path and why I became the first one in our district or second one in our districts, because John Kendall, he has already joined a club. The reason I wanted is, it all started in April 2015, when then District Director Kevin Lee told us about pathways, and I was like, I want to start now. He said, no, you have got to wait for 2 years. And I was disappointed at that point because I am a very impatient person, if you know it or not. I said, okay, I'll start the DTM in the legacy program and then see how I progress. At that point, I had only 5 speeches. I was contestant of International Speech Contest. That's when this pathways have been shared. And then I started planning my session of like how I'm going to go forward. Fast forward, May 2016, that's when I was introduced to Julie Cortez. And I fell in love with this lady. It seems a little bit out when you see, if she can be this enthusiastic, I need to join now. And I said, how did you get that? At that point, she got 2 levels in her path in. And I was like, how do I start pathways was the first question I think I asked her. And then she said, you've got to join our club. I said, okay, I'll join your club. And then Zaldi from Emperors Online, he said, we can, Julie said, Zaldi is looking for members. If you want to join, you can join. I said, she told me maybe 2 days earlier that I joined immediately and started. I joined on October 2nd and started my first speech on October 5th. This is why I love pathways. I'm a business owner. I am not shy of technology. In spite of it, I've learned a lot in my path. Every path has got its own quirks, has got own advantages, has got disadvantages as well. I'm not going to say it's all flushy and right and everything is fine. I am going to say it's about seeing the positive in how we can use these projects to progress forward is what I saw. We can move on. It's not as bad as any other education system which is out there. And I've created some as well, which is horrible, I'll say that. And it improves. So that's why I love pathways. I'm neither a guide nor an ambassador. I have applied for now once I've known what it is. So my friends, if you're not a pathway guide or pathway ambassador, it doesn't stop you joining other clubs and experiencing what it is. This education program is about experiential learning. It is about doing things. In the current legacy program, we do things. I'm not saying that I love that program as well. I've learned a lot, social speeches and all of that. But here you do it, so you learn a lot. It ingrains in your brain. When you do something, when you write something, it ingrains in your brain. That's what I love about it. I love pathways, and I wish I get that pathways guide position and share my experiences. Thank you very much for listening to me. Bye for now.
Thank you so much, Sudha. And I wish I could lead in the applause, but I'm holding my cell phone. So yeah, that's our one-handed applause because thank you so much. And let us now move on to our last, but definitely not our least panelist. Let us welcome Brian. I need a clicker.
Brian,
thank you, Michelle. Well, I've been following Pathways since before when it was the REP program. And what got me excited about it, Pat Johnson gave a speech at the convention in Kuala Lumpur. And that particular, she gave a presentation about the revised education program. And it was online, and I listened to it. And I, like Sudha, was ready to go. And it dragged on, and then suddenly changed its name. Well, I didn't wait. I started giving presentations from what I saw, what Pat had said, and what was written up in the Toastmaster magazine, and I carried on. And as was mentioned before, I had given 9 presentations before I ever got into into Pathways myself. And most of what I had come up with, 90% of it I was right on. It was the odd little bit that I was off a little bit. But however, how did I get into Pathways? Well, I used social media. I went on to the official Facebook page of Toastmasters International and said, any clubs need a member that's a remote member? And I got a reply. And I shared it with Julie, and Julie was in the club before I was. And Matthew, and we met Matthew in there, and that was when things started to come together. I've been in the computer field for 48 years, so I wasn't going to go. I had to be able to try it myself and do it myself. I ran into the same problem as Julie did, and I didn't have to go to Matthew because I went to Julie, and Julie and I sat down, and within 15 minutes, it solved my problems of pop-ups and their problems. So if you get a pop-up, blow it up to full screen so you can see everything on the screen. That was where I was going wrong. Since then, I wound up, I volunteered to be the VP of Education because I knew the VP of Education had something to do with this base camp manager position. Well, I failed to go to the meeting when the election was, and the next thing I knew, I was elected to be the president of the club. And also, I have access to the base camp management without having to do all the work, though. Although the secretary and the VP of Education and the president all have access to the base camp management part, and they need to help each other because it is a little bit more work, although I'm not sure whether it's more work in the sense that you don't have to enter all the speech titles anymore. You just have to approve when somebody wants to start the next level and so on. So I'm not sharing any screens with you because it's not exactly what you'd call user-friendly. The Basecamp Manager part is not user-friendly. And I've been very busy doing other things, so I'm including getting into my second path and completed my first path. They were asking in the online forum about how fast you can get through the path. It took me about 6 months to get through that first path. And that's including doing an HPL where I presented about hybrid clubs at the International Convention. And that was my project to completing my level 5 in the course that I took. I'm there just like Judy is. If anybody needs to be able to be helped in behind the scene about what's involved in the Basecamp Manager, and most of us online people now have come to the conclusion that Zoom is the way to go. So I can Zoom into your computer, or you can Zoom into my computer, and we could have a one-on-one session. And that in itself is another part of Pathways, is the interaction that we're going to have with our mentors and mentees and our fellow members, being able to sit there and show them, and not having to look over a screen, your shoulder, you can see right in front of you what you need to do. And that's why I'm excited about Pathways. And I challenge Julie, who's going to be the first online Pathways person. I imagine there'll be a few of us. As soon as the undistricted clubs get in there, we'll be registering DTMs like crazy. Back to you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you very much, Brian. And I found myself a clapper, well, at least a waver, since I can't clap with one hand. Thank you so much. And let us now move on to some general questions before I start reading questions from our participants. I would like to hear from 2 or 3 of you about one fear that you have heard expressed about Pathways. Maybe we could start with George.
Certainly. Michelle, the fear I hear most often is not usually spoken, but you can hear it if you listen close to the member. They're afraid of something new. They're afraid of having to learn something new. Some of them are fear no longer being the expert in their club or their location. That's what I hear most often. Many people said, George, I'm not against change at all. I just don't like this change. But I don't know what you do about that fear other than as guides and as fellow club members, you simply work with them, as Julie and Brian have talked about, to help them see that it really isn't so hard if they just get into it. Michelle?
Thank you, George. And I think you've probably expressed one of the fears that we've all heard about. So without repeating what George has said, would one other panelist, maybe Sudha, would you like to share another fear that you have heard, either expressed or you have sensed it?
Yes, one of the fear which I say is fear of unknown. They've heard about it, they've listened about it from various sources, but they have not experienced. So, we don't have these many projects, we have to do this and we have to do that. These fear, I feel, once they get on the project, they'll be all right. And the second one is, what is this going to do to me? I've been with Toastmasters for so long and I want to just practice my speeches. You can, but that's the fear everyone gets. I don't want to be limited. This is what I need to speak to. No one is limiting, it's just your perception. That's my take on it. And in Scotland, it's a little bit difficult to explain it to people. You can use it in your work situation because many of them are business owners and many of them are. That's what I fear of unknown.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sudha. And maybe one last fear. Who would like? I'm sorry, I'm so limited with my iPhone. I can't see anything but
Julie has got
the screen.
Julie has got her hand up.
Is it Lauralee?
Julie.
Oh, Julie. Okay, Julie, please.
So I hear the fears more and more in our pathway discussion forum, which has now more than 750 members. And they come every day with new questions. And as they hear the answers from all of us, because all of us come to explain them, they tell us, now I understand. So the fear is of the unknown and losing something and they don't know what will be. And so more we speak about what will come, as it tells here in this book, which I read the beginning of the pathway, more we reassure people of what will come.
Thank you,
I
Julie.
do the same thing with my blog. I try to tell not only the wonderful things which I experience, and I do, but also the problems I have. And that somehow reassures people.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You've actually segued into my next question, which is, what is a common fallacy or something that you've heard or you yourself have experienced, which is actually false or untrue or incorrect? And let's hear from, we haven't heard from Lauralee yet. Lauralee, have you heard of any fallacies, or have you experienced yourself something, a rumor, something about pathways, which you know is incorrect?
Well, there's actually quite a few of them about the fact that we're moving online. So one of those is that we're trying to kick off members who are older, and I don't believe that is true. I believe that you can get online even if you're 85 or if you're a new member at 18. You can learn the new program. And another thing that I have heard is that we're trying to force everyone to get online. But there is the option of doing it in print still. And there's also the option of printing your projects, which is why I created the step-by-step guide on how to print your projects if that is the way you want to go instead.
I know you've shared it on the Pathways forum, but perhaps if you have access to the chat, if you could put that in the chat for the
I have put my blog onto the chat, but I can do that specific project.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Brian, I know that you have several fallacies to talk about, but just very briefly, pick one of your favorite fallacies.
Well, the fallacy is about seniors. I mean, I'm a senior. I'm not in my 80s, but some of my fellow members are, and eager to get into Pathways. Those that are not, and those that are in it are enthusiastic. My concern is with what I feel is that the head office doesn't want to listen to us, the users, because they feel that we are not skilled enough in the area of the computers. And it bothers me because with some simple things, they can make the experience for older members who use the computer. I mean, they use Facebook to talk to their grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and they have no problem with that. So use that kind of technology to communicate with your older members. And also, by the way, the millenniums won't put up with anything that doesn't work easy. And they don't read manuals.
Thank you. You're right, Brian. And that actually brings us now to the, not the mailed in, but the Googled in questions, which several people filled out the form that I had posted. And one of the first question, and this is probably, I will read it and leave it to whoever wants to answer it. Could you provide, or could you share samples or examples of materials that we could use in a guest packet for Pathways and sample materials for new members?
George, perhaps because you're the most experienced, do you know if there's a resource for this?
So far, headquarters has published a couple of 3 different flyers, one-page flyers that you can include that are pathway specific. I posted some of them to the Chief Ambassadors group. We can post them wherever we need to here. They're one-page flyers. They're simple things that look like the minor variation to go from the current program to pathways. But yes, there are some materials available. Honestly, I don't think a new member, we need to focus a lot on the pathways aspect, because Toastmasters' true value has not changed. It's still about speaking and leadership development. And while we experienced members, some of us agonized for quite a while about differences, some of them small, if you want to know the truth. New members, they're coming in, and pathways is simply what their program is. So I think it's nice to talk about what's there, but I wouldn't emphasize it that much, really, for a new member.
Thank you, George. Now, again, the panelists, because I cannot see you, all I can see is my
Brian. Call on Brian.
So let me just read the next question, and whoever is ready, just jump in. And in the interest of time, let's all be very brief. So the next question is there just one icebreaker speech for the entire Pathways program? Or do we have to do the icebreaker speech over and over and over again at the beginning of each and every path? Go.
Yes.
I can answer that.
If you want.
Brian.
Yes. What I see is the icebreaker is the same, and you do a new icebreaker every time. But the same thing goes if you start a new CC manual, you do an icebreaker. And if you go way back to the first manual that Ralph Smedley put out, there's an icebreaker in the front of that. And I challenge you, it's on the history website, download that first manual. You will find that things that Ralph Smedley had in there in the 50s that are now embedded in Pathways.
Okay.
And my suggestion,
thank you.
I think I have done already 3 icebreakers, and each were different. Pathway icebreakers, I mean. We don't, even if we speak about ourselves, we can speak in a very different way.
Julie, thank you. Thank you very much, panelists. Again, I am watching the clock, and I still have 2 pages of questions, and I know Aaron probably has questions in the chat. So let us just, one person answers, and then let me move on to the next question. I know you have a bunch of answers to share, but let's do it this way. So the next question, and please don't raise your hand because I cannot see when you raise your hand. So just jump in, and once somebody has jumped in, please, the rest, let's let that person speak. So the next question is, what is a good way to choose options that actually help me grow versus my choosing the options that just look like they might be fun? Go.
Okay, I'll answer that question. Hi everyone. It is about you setting the goal for yourself. What do you want to do in the path? You can buy a path, you can look at the path and see, okay, it works for me or it doesn't. You've got 16 days to return the path and get a new one. That's one way to do it. Make your pathways poster or the PDF your friend. I go on it every day, 3 times. It's a little bit crazy for me, and see every competencies, how I can improve, how this can improve on what I have already done before.
Thank you. Very well said, Sudha. Next question. Someone would ask me, why this? Why now? Why? What would be your response? Let's hear from somebody else. Let me repeat the question. Somebody might ask, why this? Why now? What would be your response? Panelist.
No one wants that one. I'll take a shot at it.
Okay.
There are a lot of people who say, I love the program exactly as it is, and I'm just going to be pouty and unhappy because you're changing things on me. I understand that. I've gotten pouty when people have changed things on me sometimes. But we've explained, and there are 6 different videos on the Toastmaster website that says why they changed it. And I keep coming back to the one that says, if my kids are going to a school with 40-year-old materials, I would take them out of that school. So why now? Why not last year? Why wasn't it 5 years ago? That's my question.
Thank you, George. This next one is kind of long. Our club uses Easy Speak. Some of us will still be using the old education system when others are ready to go to Pathways. How will Easy Speak, and come to think of it, Free Toast Host, handle that mix of members, some of whom are still in the old educational system and others are ready to go to Pathways? In other words, does the base camp take the place of Easy Speak?
No, it doesn't. I have got my current program, and I also have Pathways on my Easy Speak with the easyspeak.org. Once the district rolls out the Pathways, your particular district has got own a version of Easy Speak. Your Pathways project or paths are added to that. Easy Speak is not going, it's still going to be your meeting management system.
Okay, thank you. And this one in particular, just because I've seen how Lauralee has handled her Pathways Guide role amazingly well. This next question, what are your best tricks and tips for incoming Pathways Guides? Lauralee, take it away.
I would say you definitely need to record your presentations. I think that was the best thing for my clubs. And make sure they know that you're going to be checking your email and your spam, because a lot of the questions get into your spam. I have got in the habit of checking my spam every day just so that I can answer their questions when they come in, and that you understand this is a big change and that some of these people have been working on the traditional program for many years and they really like it, and that you still have a little bit of a time frame so that you can explore it. And that's the one thing that I've really been talking to my clubs about, is just explore it, because you don't have to do it right now. Make sure you explore it at your own pace and look at it, at least log in and try an evaluation form, try something from there, even if it's small, because you just want to get familiar with it. And I've been having a lot of different conversations with people depending on where they are. So realize that everyone's at a different spot for this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And of course, remember that this is just the start. Those who are at the meeting or at this panel discussion, feel free to reach out to our panelists, because they have a plethora of information and insights they can share. We have a few more questions. This one, I know all of you can answer this, panelists. So just the first person jump in to answer this. There's, okay, where was that? What, oh, no, I'm reading same question. Okay, are there any equivalences between the first level of Pathways and the CC manual, so that if someone has completed the CC manual, that person would start at level 2 in Pathways? Well, I could just say no, sorry. Yeah, let me just answer that, no, sorry. In the Pathways mentoring and coaching program, are the Pathways mentoring and coaching program design different from the existing, meaning the legacy, the existing ones? Are the materials available? Yes, Brian.
I will answer that. The mentoring is actually it's stronger. Right from the get-go, that's one of the things that the board determined, that we don't need wishy-washy evaluations. We need more interaction between members when they're trying to help other members. And the mentorship program is got a whole separate path all on its own about mentorship, and it is intertwined. It doesn't matter with what paths you're taking. This is separate. So I think that the mentorship is really strengthened under the new Pathways, and we should wind up with stronger members out of it. And I predict in 10 years, Toastmasters will triple the number of members they have in Toastmasters.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. And that's actually a perfect segue to this next question. And by the way, just a heads up to Aaron, I have just 2 more questions. So be ready if you have any questions in the chat. I know there are several, but just focus on the 2 or 3 that are you consider really worth asking now. So this question, the next one would be, I'd like perhaps George to answer this because you've been with Pathways the longest. What would be your elevator pitch describing the differences between the 2 programs, the old and Pathways? George?
Well, I thought I gave that in the slide near the beginning of my talk, but let me give you the short version of that, which is, it is Pathways. It's a program that still addresses all of Toastmasters' goals of communication and leadership. It has been updated. It is simplified. I believe it is really a strengthened program. The leadership track to me has always felt like it was bolted onto the side a little bit somehow. And they have truly integrated the leadership and communications together. They're projects in both. So I think what we have is a improved way of building the kind of skills that members join Toastmasters to get.
Thank you, George. And this will be the final question from the sent in before we move on to the chat questions. And anybody among the panelists can answer this. For clarification, for members belonging to more than one club with 2 different paths, if a member changes their home club in base camp, does the VPE of the second club see all the members' accomplishments and be able to advance the completion of the members' level?
Yes, I can answer that because I have 7 clubs so far. From the base camp, when you go inside the base camp, you can choose which club you want to give any level, not any path, but any level can be given to any club. So we can choose who needs it. And the club who needs it, you will finish your level at that club when you went into. And then you can change the next day to another club and give another level next time to another club. So there is no problem with that.
Thank you. It's very flexible. Thank you so much, Julie. So we're done with all the mailed in or zoomed in, Googled in questions. Aaron, would you like to post the first question from the chat box?
Sure, no problem. So I will do it slightly this way. For panelists, please raise up your hand if you answer any questions. So there are 15 questions in total, more coming on along the way. The first question
no, Aaron, hang on. We only have 9 more minutes. We end on
I'll
the
ask the main one then.
So that's why I'm asking you to focus on the top 3 questions which you've seen.
Okay. The first question that's commonly asked among the audience is that, can you share more about the Pathways HPL, the capstone project, which the Pathways are working on? And is there any more elaboration on that? So feel free to answer that question.
George.
Let me take that one. There are 2 different things. There's the HPL project, which is in Pathways and is very, very much like Pathways or the regular HPL we all know and love. There are some differences, but the same. There is also the DTM project, which everyone who wants to earn a DTM must get, which is similar to an HPL, but somewhat simplified in that, for example, it does not include a guidance committee. So HPL exists. It's required for 3 paths. It's an option in 7 of the paths. The DTM project, anyone who wants to earn a DTM must do the DTM project.
Okay, thank you, George. The second question that's commonly asked among the audience is that how should a club be able to elect their pathway guides or ambassadors? And if there's any specific criteria, can you list it out?
There is no election for pathway guide. There is an application for pathway guide, and it is PQD, Program Quality Director of your district, selects the pathway guide.
Thank you, Sudha. Thank you. Yes, Aaron, move on.
Next question would be related to Speechcraft. Since pathway is going to be introduced, is there any formats that is catered to Speechcraft? So is there anyone to actually answer that question?
I think Brian would answer that.
I can answer that one. I'm starting a Speechcraft, and what we decided to do, apparently they're not going to change the material till some time. So I'm taking the icebreaker speech and a little bit of what's in that first level where you do a speech, you get evaluation, you redo a speech, and that is going to be the basis of the Speechcraft. And then those members will more than likely stay in, and they can then register their paths and as soon as they complete the first path.
Okay, so the next question would be related to the printed materials. As you know that the pathways is separated to online and printed materials. Is there more elaboration on how the printed materials can be beneficial to the pathways?
Julie knows about it.
Julie will answer that.
Everyone's Julie.
Yes, so I fall into pathway printed material, and it is beautiful. But it is unusable from level 3, in my point of view, because it cuts your choice. The beauty of pathway is that you can choose from certain projects. They give you 2 very good projects, but you cannot choose. And the second complaint for me was that they didn't change the material inside. And it says, for example, at this point, read the vocal variety because it is useful for storytelling. But someone who has printed material have no access at all. Now, from Basecamp point of view, Basecamp Manager, I just read yesterday, it is a nightmare because they had to work so much to approve every project, not only every level. And so in all, as George perhaps will tell us, there have been 45 who fall like me into buying printed material instead of using website. And now people know and make a lot of workaround to avoid it. Even if it is beautiful. I spoke with someone from prison. And of course, when you are in a prison, you cannot access web. But even there, they can print for them and then give them choice. Because pathway is so beautiful. And you can
Thank you. In other words, just go for the online and print it off your computer.
Yeah.
We have time for one final question before we wrap up because we're approaching the top of the hour. Aaron?
Okay, so the last question would be, I will say that the new program able to accommodate every role and every speaking opportunity being able to count as an award for the club DCP points, such as, for example, a credits for grammarian and timer? And if so, if the path is completed, are you able to complete with another path and select with other electives? That will be the last question.
Thank you, Aaron.
So the question is, can they do a path in one level and transport it to the next level? Is that what the question is?
That will be one of the summary of it, yeah.
Okay, so they cannot do that if they are learning, if they credit, because they've got to complete it in the path before they can go to the next one. So they cannot take the credit to the next path. I don't know how this is going to work. That's why that's stopping me as well. Doing the other parts. I can do it. It's not a problem, but I cannot take it, transport it to the next path. That's one, that's my understanding of it. because I need to complete the part, complete the project.
Thank you, Sudha. Let me just interject that I think listening to what Aaron said, the first part of the question was actually about the meeting roles. For example, grammarian, Toastmasters.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to come next.
Okay.
There is way to register all the roles on Basecamp, but it is as a note from BPE that this person has done. But that credit doesn't go to any of your DCP points.
It doesn't count. Timer, you do because you need timer.
Yeah.
Not because you want a credit or a point.
Yeah.
And
none of the roles are accredited.
Perfect segue mentioning the timer, because we are now approaching the end of our 1 hour, and I cannot believe where the hour went, but it went. And so thank you so much, everyone. It has been amazing. I guess the next time we should have an hour and a half, because we have so much to share, and I know there's so many questions. What we will do is, Aaron, I'm sure, is saving the chat box. I'm sure he's doing that. And we will give all of the chat questions to all 5 panelists, and all of you can have a go at each question, and then we can post all of those questions on the Pathways discussion forum. And so,
Michelle, just before you wrap it up, on the subject of the chat box, many of the questions that have been asked have actually been answered in the chat box. Can I suggest that everybody in the chat box down the bottom, there is a more button. Click on more and save chat, and that will save it to your own computer, so the answers are already there for you.
Fabulous. This is again an illustration of how we can constantly improve by collaboration. So thank you so much, everyone. I am now going to wrap up this panel discussion. Thank everybody, especially our hardworking background gentlemen, Graham and Aaron. And of course, let us all give a really big hand to our 5 panelists. They have been amazing, wouldn't you agree? So let's give them a really big hand. Could you unmute everybody so we could all hear the big applause?
I think we can do that.
I can't. I'm not the co-host.
Yes,
that's all right. I can. Everybody.
Yes, everybody, let's give panelists a really big hand. So thank you so much again.
So can we stop recording now?
Thank you.